"You're a relic," she said, her lips curling into a snicker that turned my stomach. The new CEO stood there in her designer heels, arms crossed, looking at me like something scraped off the bottom of her shoe. The termination letters sat on the desk between us, my name printed in cold corporate font. "We're modernizing this office, Elizabeth. Your services are no longer required." 12 minutes. That's all the time left on the customs clearance for the Johannesburg shipment. My eyes flicked to the clock on the wall. 11:48. The document would expire at noon, and with it, $200 million worth of specialized medical equipment would be seized by customs officials halfway across the world. I opened my mouth ready to explain to make her understand what she'd just done. But the security guard was already at the door. "Escort her out," she commanded, turning her back to me like I'd already ceased to exist. Before I get into what happened next, if this resonates with you, hitting that subscribe button would mean the world. We just crossed our first milestone, and now we're working toward 2,000 subscribers. Join this growing community where every story matters. My name is Elizabeth Thornwood, and for 17 years I served as Director of International Logistics at Hartwell Global Trading. I wasn't born into privilege, and nobody handed me my position through connections. I grew up in a small Ohio town where my father worked at the steel mill, and my mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. They taught me that success meant nothing if it came at the cost of forgetting where you started. Empathy wasn't a word in our house, it was a way of living. Every person mattered. Every detail mattered. That philosophy carried me from an entry-level clerk position all the way to the top of my department, and it saved the company millions more times than I could ever count. But apparently experience and dedication made me a relic. The interview room at Hartwell Global Trading smelled like stale coffee and ambition. I sat across from Christopher Hartwell himself, the founder and then CEO. I was 26, with a degree from a state school and zero industry connections. "Tell me why I should hire someone with no experience in logistics," Christopher said. "Because I understand that every shipment represents more than cargo. It's someone's livelihood. It's medical supplies reaching hospitals. It's equipment that builds infrastructure. I'll treat every single shipment like it matters because it does." Christopher smiled. "When can you start?" Those early years were brutal. I worked 70-hour weeks, learning every regulation, every customs code, every time zone quirk and cultural nuance capable of making or breaking an international shipment. While other employees treated cargo manifests as paperwork, I saw the bigger picture underneath. By year 5, I was Senior Logistics Coordinator. By year 10, I ran the entire international division. Christopher trusted me completely, and I never gave him reason to regret it. That dedication meant knowing every detail, every timeline, every potential problem before it ever became a crisis. It meant building relationships with customs officials across 6 continents. It meant understanding that a paperwork delay in Rotterdam could cascade into a humanitarian crisis in Nairobi. Christopher Hartwell announced his retirement on a gray Tuesday morning in March. At 73, he'd earned the rest. What surprised us all was his choice of successor. Erica Blackwood wasn't promoted from within. She came from outside, a corporate efficiency expert with an EMBA from Harvard and a reputation for streamlining operations. Her first day, she walked the offices trailed by a consultant team carrying tablets and taking notes. "We'll be implementing some changes," Erica announced at the all-hands meeting. "Hartwell Global Trading has operated on outdated models for too long. It's time we embraced the future." The future, it turned out, meant automation. It meant replacing experienced people with algorithms. It meant cutting costs wherever possible, consequences be damned. "These new software systems will handle customs documentation," she explained during a department meeting. "We'll reduce redundancy and streamline our processes." I raised my hand. With respect, customs regulations vary significantly by country and change frequently. Software can't account for the nuance required. "Are you suggesting that our multi-million-dollar system is inferior to manual processes?" Erica cut in, her tone sharp. "I'm suggesting that international logistics requires human judgment and relationships that software can't replicate." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Perhaps that's the kind of outdated thinking we need to move past." The room went silent. I should have recognized it as a warning sign right then. But I'd spent 17 years believing competence and dedication mattered. I was wrong. Over the following months, Erica systematically dismantled everything Christopher had built. She cut staff, eliminated redundant positions, and pushed her automation agenda despite mounting problems. Shipments started experiencing delays. Customs issues I could once have resolved with a single phone call turned into week-long ordeals routed through impersonal software tickets. The Johannesburg deal was the biggest contract in Hartwell's history. $200 million in specialized medical imaging equipment destined for hospitals across South Africa. Lives literally depended on that shipment arriving on time and intact. The South African customs clearance was notoriously complex, requiring specific documentation, certifications from 3 separate regulatory bodies, and precise timing. I spent 3 weeks coordinating every detail personally, working with Naledi Cumulo, the senior customs director at Ortambo International. We'd worked together over a decade, and she trusted my word. Elizabeth, the clearance window is tight, Naledi warned me during our video call. The documentation must be submitted by noon their time on the 16th, not 12:01. Noon exactly. After that, the regulatory period expires and the entire shipment gets seized pending a new application process. How long would that take? Months. Maybe 6. And the storage fees alone would be catastrophic. I'll handle it personally, I promised. I prepared everything meticulously. Every document triple-checked, every certification verified, every form filled out in duplicate. I built a step-by-step submission protocol scheduled for 10 in the morning Eastern Time, 5 hours ahead of the deadline, plenty of buffer for any last-minute problems. What I hadn't accounted for was Erica Blackwood's ego. I arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m. The Johannesburg clearance sat queued and ready. I ran through my checklist one last time. At 9:45, a calendar notification popped up. Meeting with CEO, conference room mandatory. 15 minutes before the most critical submission of the year, I sent a reply. Can we reschedule to after 10:15? Managing time-sensitive customs clearance. The response came back within seconds. Non negotiable. I grabbed my laptop and headed to the conference room. Erica sat at the head of the table, her expression unreadable. 2 members of her consultant team flanked her. Close the laptop, Elizabeth, she said. I have a critical customs submission in 12 minutes. I said close it. Something in her tone made me comply. My stomach dropped. Your position is being eliminated, Erica stated flatly. We're restructuring the International Logistics Division. Your role has become redundant. The words didn't land right away. Redundant? The new automated systems handle everything you do more efficiently at a fraction of the cost. Frankly, your insistence on maintaining outdated manual processes has become an obstacle to progress. I've never missed a deadline. I've saved this company millions. You're a relic, Erica interrupted. And there was that snicker again, that contemptuous curl of her lip. We're modernizing this office. Your services are no longer required. I glanced at my watch. 9:53. 7 minutes. The Johannesburg clearance expires at noon their time. If someone doesn't verify the submission, our automated systems are handling it, Erica said dismissively. The automated system isn't configured for the time zone differential and the regulatory overlap. It'll submit the wrong documentation. The clearance will be rejected. Erica's expression hardened. This is exactly the kind of fear-mongering I'm talking about, always claiming that only you can do the job. It's manipulative and unprofessional. I'm not being manipulative. I'm trying to prevent a catastrophe. The only catastrophe here is that we didn't make this change sooner. She nodded to the security guard. Get her out. I pointed at the clock on the wall. 11 minutes. Please just let me verify the submission. Now, Erica commanded. The guard, a man named Howard I'd chatted with countless mornings, looked uncomfortable but stepped forward. Miss Thornwood, please. As Howard walked me through the office, I watched the clock. 11:51. 9 minutes. 11:53. 7 minutes. 11:55. 5 minutes. The street. 11:57. 3 minutes. I stood on the sidewalk outside Hartwell Global Trading, my box of desk items in my arms, watching the seconds tick down on my phone. At exactly noon, the submission would either go through correctly or it wouldn't. Noon arrived. I waited, staring at my phone. It didn't ring. The news broke Thursday morning. Hartwell Global Trading faces crisis as $200 million shipment seized by South African customs. I was at home when my phone started buzzing with messages from former colleagues, each one linking to the same story. The automated system had submitted the clearance at exactly 10 a.m. Eastern Time, as programmed. But Erica's consultant team had streamlined the documentation templates 3 days earlier, stripping out what they'd considered redundant certification references, the exact regulatory compliance codes required under South African medical device import law. The submission was rejected instantly. By the time anyone at Hartwell noticed, it was 2 p.m., 9 hours past the deadline. The entire shipment was seized pending a new clearance application, a process that would take a minimum of 4 months. Storage fees accrued at $50,000 a day, but the financial cost paled next to the human cost. Hospitals across South Africa had scheduled patients for diagnostic procedures that now couldn't happen. People with potential cancers would wait months for scans that could save their lives. My phone rang. Christopher Hartwell's name on the screen. Elizabeth. His voice sounded heavy. I just heard what happened. All of it. I tried to warn her. I know. The board called an emergency meeting. Erica's been suspended. They want to know if you'd be willing to come back and fix this. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. The damage is done, Christopher. Even if I could expedite a new clearance, we're looking at months of delays. I know, he said softly. But will you try? I stood outside Hartwell Global Trading at 7 a.m., staring up at the building I'd been escorted out of just 8 days earlier. My hands gripped the handle of my briefcase, knuckles white. The security guard at the front desk was different, not Howard. This one was younger, unfamiliar. Elizabeth Thornwood for the executive team, I said, showing my temporary consultant badge. He checked his computer, nodded, and buzzed me through. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt endless. When the doors opened, I stepped into chaos. The logistics department was in complete disarray. Staff rushed between cubicles, phones rang unanswered, and raised voices carried from the conference room. 3 more shipments are stuck in customs. The system keeps rejecting the certifications. We need someone who knows how to fix this. Then I saw her. Erica emerged from her office, expression thunderous. She froze when she spotted me. What is she doing here? Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. The room went silent, every head turning toward us. The board asked me to consult on the Johannesburg situation, I said calmly, though my heart hammered against my ribs. I don't care what the board asked. I'm still CEO, and I'm telling you to leave. I stood my ground. The board granted me full authority to resolve this crisis. If you'd like to take it up with them, Richard Lancaster is waiting in the executive conference room. Richard Lancaster was the board chairman. Erica's jaw tightened. This is my company. Actually, a voice interrupted from behind me. Richard Lancaster himself stepped off the elevator, flanked by 2 other board members. It's the shareholders' company, Ms. Blackwood, and they voted to grant Ms. Thornwood whatever access and authority she requires. You can cooperate or you can clean out your desk. Choose. The color drained from Erica's face. Around us, staff pretended to work while clearly listening to every word. Fine, Erica bit out. But when she fails, if she fails, Richard said coldly, it will be your mess to clean up. Conference room. Now, the executive conference room had been turned into a crisis command center. Whiteboards covered every wall, filled with timelines, regulatory codes, contact information. 3 laptops sat open on the table, screens showing different time zones and customs portals. I set down my briefcase and pulled out the research I'd compiled over the past week. Here's the situation, I began, addressing the 6 board members and Christopher, who'd come out of retirement to help. Erica sat at the far end, arms crossed, radiating hostility. The standard reapplication process will take 4 to 6 months. Storage fees will exceed $8 million. Contract penalties will add another $12 million. We'll lose the South African Hospital Consortium as a client, and our reputation across the African market will be destroyed. I paused. Unless we find another way. What other way? One of the board members asked. There's an emergency humanitarian provision in the South African medical import regulations. If we can reclassify the shipment as humanitarian aid and secure NGO sponsorship, We can process it in 3 to 4 weeks instead of months. Erica let out a derisive laugh. That's your solution? Reclassification? The shipment is already categorized. The shipment is currently seized. I cut her off, my voice sharp, which means its classification can be amended through a new application. But it requires 3 things. Proof of immediate humanitarian need, sponsorship from a recognized international medical NGO, and personal intervention from someone the South African Customs Authority trusts. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. I have contacts at 3 hospitals in South Africa who've sent written statements documenting critical cases. Cancer patients, children with neurological conditions, who need these machines immediately. Christopher has connections with Global Medical Relief who might sponsor. And I have a relationship with Naledi Cumulo, the senior customs director in Johannesburg. Richard leaned forward. Might sponsor. You don't have confirmation? I've been fired for a week. I didn't have the authority to negotiate on Hartwell's behalf. Until now. Christopher nodded slowly. I'll call Global Medical Relief today. If anyone can get them on board, it's me. And Naledi? Richard asked. Will she even take your call after this disaster? I met his gaze steadily. There's only one way to find out. I stepped into Christopher's old office, the one Erica now occupied, and closed the door. She'd started to protest, but Richard silenced her with a look. The video call connected after 3 rings. Naledi's face appeared on screen, and I saw the exact moment she recognized me. Her expression shifting from professional courtesy to genuine concern. Elizabeth, I heard what happened at Hartwell. I'm so sorry. The clearance failure. Naledi, I need your help, I said, cutting through the pleasantries. I'm back at Hartwell on emergency consultation. We're trying to salvage the Johannesburg shipment through the humanitarian provision. Her eyebrows rose. That's creative. But it would require extraordinary circumstances. I have documentation of 18 critical cases at hospitals across South Africa. Oncology patients who've been waiting months for diagnostic scans. A 6-year-old girl with suspected brain tumors who's been having seizures. These machines aren't just equipment. They're life-saving tools sitting in a warehouse because of a bureaucratic failure. Naledi went quiet for a moment. Send me the medical documentation. All of it. If what you're saying is verified, I can push this through the humanitarian channels. But Elizabeth, the storage fees are accumulating at $50,000 a day. I know. How long do we have before the warehouse moves to auction the cargo for fees? 60 days from seizure. That gives you 52 days. And how long for humanitarian reclassification? With proper documentation and NGO sponsorship, 3 weeks. Maybe 4. But you need everything perfect. 1 missing form. 1 incorrect code. And it starts over. It'll be perfect, I promised. I'll have the documentation to you within 48 hours. After we disconnected, I opened the office door to find the entire board watching me. She's in, I announced. We have 52 days before the cargo is auctioned. We need NGO sponsorship confirmed within 72 hours, and a complete humanitarian application package, ready to submit within 1 week. Richard nodded. What do you need from us? Access to every contact at the South African hospitals. Financial authorization to expedite document certifications. And someone to handle the legal framework while I coordinate the customs application. Done. What else? I looked directly at Erica. I need access to the original shipment files and the automated system logs. Everything that was submitted on the 16th. Erica's face flushed. Those files are confidential. Miss Blackwood. Richard's voice turned to ice. Either provide Miss Thornwood with everything she requests, or security will escort you from the building, while we retrieve the files ourselves. Choose now. The next 3 days were a blur of phone calls, document preparation, and dangerous quantities of coffee. Christopher secured NGO sponsorship from Global Medical Relief within 18 hours. Decades of board service paying off when the organization's director personally vouched for the humanitarian need. I worked with my former team, the staff members who'd survived Erica's purge, to compile medical documentation from every hospital expecting equipment. We contacted physicians directly, gathering patient cases that demonstrated immediate critical need. Each story was heartbreaking. Each one strengthened our application. The automated system logs revealed exactly what had gone wrong. Erica's consultants had stripped 17 specific regulatory compliance codes from the submission template, codes I'd personally added over years of working with South African customs. The system had submitted technically complete forms that were regulatorily invalid. I rebuilt every single document from scratch. On day 4, Erica appeared in the war room where I was working. It was 11 p.m. I was alone, surrounded by printouts and half-eaten takeout containers. "You're really going to pull this off, aren't you?" she said from the doorway. I looked up exhausted. "I'm going to try. The board is talking about terminating me. Officially. I know. You could put in a good word. Tell them I deserve another chance." I set down my pen. "Do you think you deserve another chance?" She was quiet for a long moment. I think I was so focused on proving I could transform this company that I forgot to learn what made it worth transforming in the first place. "I thought your experience was obsolete." I was wrong. "Yes, you were. So you're not going to help me?" "I'm going to tell the board the truth, that you made catastrophic decisions based on arrogance and inexperience, and that those decisions nearly destroyed this company. What they do with that information is up to them." Erica nodded slowly. "Fair enough." She turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, watching you work these past few days, I understand now what I threw away. Not just your expertise but your dedication. The way you care about every detail because you know it matters. That can't be automated." After she left, I went back to the documents. Apologies were easy. Results were what mattered. The humanitarian aid application was submitted at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. in Johannesburg. I'd timed it precisely to make sure Naledi would be at her desk when it arrived. Every document was perfect. Every certification authenticated. Every regulatory code correct. I'd triple-checked everything myself, refusing to trust the automated systems. The board had gathered in the conference room despite the early hour. Christopher sat beside me, coffee in hand. Richard and 3 other board members stood near the screens. Even Erica was there, hovering near the back of the room. My phone rang. Naledi's name on the screen. I put it on speaker. "Elizabeth, I have your application in front of me. And? It's flawless. Completely flawless. The medical documentation is compelling. The NGO sponsorship is properly structured. And every regulatory requirement is met." She paused. "I'm sending it to the Humanitarian Review Board now. They'll convene tomorrow morning. How long until we know? Best case? 48 hours for preliminary approval, then another 2 weeks for final clearance. Worst case? Don't tell me the worst case. I can't handle it right now." Naledi laughed. "Fair enough. Elizabeth, I'm doing everything I can on my end. This should work." "Should? Will?" she corrected. "This will work. You did good." Preliminary approval came through in 36 hours. The review board had examined the medical documentation and fast-tracked the application based on the severity of the cases. Final approval took 16 days, 2 days longer than Naledi's estimate. 16 days of checking my phone obsessively, of waking up at 3 a.m. to check email, of contingency planning for every possible failure. On day 16 at 4:47 a.m., my phone buzzed with an email from Naledi. Subject line: approved. I was out of bed before I'd even finished reading it. I called Christopher first. "It's approved," I said when he answered, my voice shaking. "The clearance is approved. The shipment will be released within 72 hours. Elizabeth, you did it. You actually did it. We did it. You got the NGO sponsorship. The board gave me the resources." "No," Christopher interrupted gently. "You did this. Your relationships. Your expertise. Your refusal to give up. This was all you." The shipment was released 63 hours later. Total storage fees $1.3 million, a fraction of what they would have been. The equipment reached the hospitals 5 weeks after the original seizure date. It wasn't perfect. Some patients had suffered from the delay. But we'd salvaged what we could out of Erica's catastrophic mistake. Erica Blackwood was terminated 3 days after the clearance approval. The board voted unanimously to end her contract, citing gross negligence and failure of leadership. I wasn't present for the vote, but Richard called me right afterward. "It's done," he said. "She's out. And Elizabeth, we'd like to offer you her position." CEO of Hartwell Global Trading. I sat in my apartment looking out at the city and realized I didn't want it. Richard, I appreciate the offer more than you know, but I think Hartwell needs someone who understands both the traditional operations and the modern innovations you were trying to achieve with Erica. That's not me. Then what will you do? I think I'm going to start my own consulting firm. Help other companies navigate complex logistics challenges. Train the next generation. Build something from the ground up. There was a long pause. You're sure? I am. Hartwell would like to be your first client. Ongoing consultation contract. Generous retainer. Full access whenever we need your expertise. I smiled. I think we can arrange that. Thornwood Logistics Consulting launched on a crisp autumn morning. My first client was Hartwell Global Trading, under their new CEO, Angela Chan, a woman who'd spent 20 years in international logistics before earning her EMBA. My second client was a medical supply nonprofit struggling with East African import restrictions. My third was a shipping company in Portland facing European customs nightmares. By month 6, I had 12 clients and was hiring staff. The office was small, just 4 rooms in a converted warehouse in the financial district. But it was mine. Every desk, every whiteboard, every decision reflected my own values. One afternoon my assistant buzzed me. Elizabeth, you have a visitor. No appointment. Who is it? Erica Blackwood. I stared at the intercom for a long moment, then pressed the button. Send her in. Erica looked different than the polished CEO who'd fired me. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of a power suit. Her eyes carried something I hadn't seen before. Humility. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, she said, standing in my doorway. What can I do for you? I wanted to apologize. Not the corporate apology I gave before, but a real one. You tried to warn me about the Johannesburg clearance. You tried to explain why experience mattered, why relationships with customs officials couldn't be replaced by software. I dismissed you as obsolete because I was too arrogant to recognize expertise when it was right in front of me. She stepped further into my office. I've spent the past 6 months unemployed, blacklisted from every major corporation because of the Hartwell disaster, and honestly I deserved that. But I've had time to really examine what went wrong, and why I let my ego override my judgment. I mistook novelty for progress and experience for stagnation. Why are you telling me this? Erica took a deep breath. Because I want to really learn not just about logistics but about how to value people and expertise, how to integrate innovation with wisdom instead of using it as a weapon to destroy institutional knowledge. She met my eyes. I know I have no right to ask, but I was hoping you might consider taking me on. Entry-level position. Whatever you be willing to offer. I'll answer phones, file paperwork, I don't care. I just want the chance to understand what I destroyed, and to build myself into the kind of professional I should have been from the start. I studied her for a long moment. This was the woman who'd called me a relic, who'd fired me to prove a point, whose arrogance had nearly destroyed a company and delayed critical medical care to people who desperately needed it. But I also remember being 26 years old, sitting across from Christopher Hartwell, asking him to take a chance on someone with no experience and everything to prove. Operations coordinator, I said finally. Entry level. You'll work directly under my senior staff, learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. You'll handle the jobs no one else wants. Data entry, filing, basic research. And if you show me that you've truly learned from your mistakes, we'll talk about advancement. Erica's eyes widened. You're serious? I'm serious. But understand this. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because everyone deserves a second chance to prove they can learn and grow. Whether you earn that chance is entirely up to you. When do I start? Monday, 7 a.m. Don't be late. Erica Blackwood has been working at Thornwood Logistics for 18 months now. She started in data entry, gradually working her way up to operations coordinator. She asks questions instead of assuming she knows the answers. She listens to experienced staff instead of dismissing their concerns. She's becoming the kind of professional she should have been at Hartwell. Last month, Thornwood celebrated its 2nd anniversary. We hosted a gathering at the office, staff, clients, partners, friends. Naledi flew in from Johannesburg, the first time we'd met in person in 5 years. I knew you'd land on your feet, she said, raising a glass. People with integrity and competence always do. Christopher attended, officially retired but still following the industry he'd spent his life building. Even Angela Chan came, along with several board members from Hartwell. Erica approached me during the celebration. "Can I say something to everyone?" I nodded, curious. She stepped to the front of the room and waited for quiet. "Most of you know my story," she began, her voice steady but vulnerable. 2 years ago, I made decisions that nearly destroyed Hartwell Global Trading and definitely destroyed my career. I fired Elizabeth because I thought experience was obsolete and that automation could replace expertise. The room went silent. I was catastrophically, expensively, painfully wrong. And when the consequences came due, Elizabeth had every reason to let me fail alone. Instead, she offered me something I didn't deserve. A chance to learn from my mistakes. To rebuild my career from the ground up. To earn back what I'd lost. She looked at me. "I'll never adequately thank you for that. But I can promise that every single day I work here, I'm trying to embody the principles I once dismissed. That people matter. That relationships matter. That expertise earned over years can't be replaced by algorithms. And that true innovation comes from integrating new tools with timeless values, not from using technology as an excuse to discard wisdom." Christopher started clapping. The room joined in. After everyone left, I sat in my office looking at the framed letter on my wall. A note from a hospital director in rural South Africa. A 9-year-old girl named Thandi had been experiencing severe headaches and vision problems. The imaging machine from our salvaged Johannesburg shipment had revealed a tumor, operable because it was caught early. They'd performed the surgery. Thandi was recovering well, expected to make a full recovery. That letter reminded me why the details mattered, why cutting corners had real consequences, why treating every shipment as critical was the only acceptable standard. 3 weeks ago, a young woman named Ashley Kim interviewed for an entry-level position. She was 24, fresh out of college, no real-world experience. "Why do you want to work here?" I asked. "Because I read about the Johannesburg shipment, about how you were fired for being a relic, then proved that experience and relationships matter more than any automated system. I want to learn from someone who understands that business is ultimately about serving people, not just optimizing processes." I hired her. She started last week working alongside Erica, learning the same lessons from the ground up. That's what endures, not companies or titles, but principles passed from one generation to the next. The understanding that competence matters. That relationships built on trust create value that can't be quantified. That innovation should serve human needs, not replace human judgment. Thornwood Logistics continues to grow. We just finalized a partnership with Hartwell. They refer their most complex shipments to us, and we provide consultation on their customs protocols and relationship management. It's the kind of collaboration that creates value for everyone. Erica has been invaluable in developing that partnership. She understands Hartwell's systems intimately and has been adamant about building in safeguards, requirements for human review of automated processes, escalation procedures when experienced staff raise concerns, regular audits to ensure efficiency isn't overriding effectiveness. "I can't undo what I did," she told me during one of our planning sessions, "but I can help make sure it never happens again at Hartwell or anywhere else." That's redemption. Not erasing the past, but learning from it thoroughly enough to prevent repeating it. The clock on my office wall reads 11:48. It always will, frozen at the moment when everything changed. Sometimes I glance at it and remember standing in that conference room, watching the minutes tick down, powerless to stop what was coming. The memory doesn't sting anymore. It reminds me of what I've built since that moment. Thornwood Logistics isn't just a company. It's proof that experience matters, that relationships built on trust can't be automated away, that there's still room in the modern business world for people who value doing things right over doing things fast. We're not resisting change. Our office uses cutting-edge logistics software, real-time tracking systems, and AI-assisted route optimization. But those tools are wielded by experienced professionals who understand their limitations and know when human judgment needs to override the algorithm. That's the balance Erica couldn't find at first, the integration of innovation and wisdom, efficiency and effectiveness, progress and principles. But she's learning it now, and she's better for it. Elizabeth Thornwood, founder and CEO of Thornwood Logistics, former relic of Hartwell Global Trading. That's how I introduce myself at industry events now. With a smile that acknowledges the whole journey. The relic label used to sting. Now it's a badge of honor. It means I value things that endure. Competence, integrity, relationships, service. In a business world obsessed with disruption, being a relic means remembering that some truths are timeless. The Johannesburg disaster could have been my professional obituary. Instead, it became my origin story the moment everything got stripped away, forcing me to prove my value from zero. I proved it not just to Erica or Christopher or the board but to myself. I discovered that my competence existed independently of any corporate structure, that my expertise was portable, that the relationships I'd built over 17 years were mine. Thornwood Logistics continues to grow, serving clients who value expertise and integrity, training professionals who understand that business is ultimately about people serving people, partnering with organizations that share our values. And somewhere in South Africa, a 9-year-old girl named Thandi is healthy because we cared enough about a customs deadline to salvage a disaster, to find a solution when the easy answer was to give up, to remember that behind every shipment is a human story that matters. That's the legacy I'm building. Not measured in revenue or market share, but in problems solved, people served, and principles maintained. The clock reads 11:48. Those 12 minutes redefine my career, my company, and my understanding of what really matters in business and in life. 12 minutes that made all the difference.